Syscomm have been very, very busy with ransomware recovery over the last few years. I think since everybody moved out of their offices for COVID in 2020, and turned their remote access capability inside out. We've helped over 200 organizations now to recover from ransomware. I see the same patterns of mistakes being made across how businesses are building networks and the chinks in the armor that are left exposed that threat actors are able to exploit over time. In all of the cases that we have remediated, the customer has always got a firewall, they have always got antivirus, they've always got switching in their network, and they've always got backups across their network. But unfortunately, despite having the right parts of the puzzle, those components don't combine to provide defense in depth. So threat actors are able to circumvent the technology that's in place. And it comes down to misconfiguration, not so much that organizations don't have the right sort of technology. I think it's debatable about which is the right vendor for some of these, but the right parts of the jigsaw are always in place at all ransomware victims, but it's how they're configured and how they work together to provide defense in depth and to resist the lateral movement of a threat actor through the network. There is a degree of hacking, of course, to get into networks, but actually once the initial hack has occurred, the networks are often structured as a house of cards, and it's not terribly difficult to bring those down with the way networks are often built.
A recent customer is obviously one that's been recently hit as part of a cyber attack, and part of helping them is getting them back up and running again. So we deal with a lot of what's called post-breach remediation work. So essentially rebuilding their systems after they've been attacked, whether that means bringing them from backups or building them out from scratch if the backups aren't available. They see you as a bit of a hero, really, because of the position that you're in. There's a hell of a lot of work involved in rebuilding all of these systems. So yeah, it can take weeks, months, often months to sort of get them systems back up and running. People think they're secure because they've got an antivirus. It's not the end of it at all. And in a lot of these attacks, they've often got software up and running that they feel they're protected by, and they've either not done the job or they've not been good enough at doing their job to protect them. There's a lot more to IT and protecting data than just an antivirus. A lot of people don't think about those sorts of things, and it's not always down to the fact they don't think about it, it's just they don't know about it. So that's kind of what Syscomm does, is helps to kind of tutor on that path, helps them guide that, down this is what you should be doing, and try and put them into a place where they're comfortable and they can kind of sleep at night.
Usually we find that a company will have a disaster recovery plan, but that disaster recovery plan has fallen apart within the first half an hour, because often the backups are taken out as a part of that attack as well. So actually recovery becomes very difficult from that point forward, and it is not uncommon for organizations to have to look at historic backups and to piece data together from data that they have across disparate systems and legacy systems to try and reconstitute their business or organization. So what happens in the first few hours is that starts to become apparent. It becomes quite difficult to initiate a recovery, one, because there are often no backups, and also because there is no infrastructure. So if we have no backups, then the encrypted data that sits on the infrastructure that has been attacked becomes critical. We can't yet flatten that and rebuild on it because the fragments of data that maybe have escaped encryption remain, and they might be critical for an organization to recover. So it's a lot more complicated than most disaster recovery plans really cover, and it requires a lot of people and a lot of resource to try and mobilize whilst protecting what data might still be available in the network before we can get recovery initiated. And it takes weeks rather than hours or days, as most people would hope it to. Syscomm, when we're involved in ransomware remediation, we would always recommend and really insist that an organization tries to apply the lessons learned on the fly to rebuild the infrastructure with defense in depth, to improve the segmentation of the network, to improve the backup architecture of the network. And it's imperative that organizations do that to move towards better practice, to move towards best practice, because we frequently see that organizations do not have best practice in the way their networks have been built and evolved, and it possibly doesn't get reviewed frequently enough, or there isn't a compelling reason to overhaul the network to align it with current best practice.